Hello, parents, educators, and nerdy D&D fans. You have found our new home for Area of Effect, a talk show where we discuss how tabletop role-playing games benefit the whole family. We're currently in process of shifting all our old but golden episodes over to this new channel by posting a new episode every weekday until we catch back up to our new episodes. We would love your help getting this new channel up and running with a follow, share, or review. And thanks for joining us on our quest to bring more adventurers to the table.
In my kindergarten classroom, we have a lot of kids, especially in the last handful of years, who are not exposed to classes. Like they didn't have to be in a classroom, or they were, COVID kids taken care of at home by their own families. And the first experience they had was going to kindergarten. So we set up systems and rules and regulations, and you don't teach any academics the first couple weeks because you're teaching kids how to school. One of the systems that every classroom needs is how to solve the problem of having a sharp pencil. One student in particular would run up to me in the middle of something, even when they're supposed to be in their seat, or they know the process of they need to raise their hand. But she comes up to me and just tells me, my pencil broke. And she just stares at me like, okay, you know what to do. What do you do when you need a pencil? Tell me where you know there are more pencils in the classroom. She can point to it. She shows me, okay, you can solve this problem. And it just didn't cross her mind that she had the power to solve her problem. I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Allison.
And I'm Ryan. And welcome to Area of Effect, a podcast by the Kids Table, where we discuss how tabletop RPGs benefit kids and answer your questions about playing TTRPGs with the kids around your table. And I am super excited today because on the podcast we have Kimberly. Everybody say hi to Kimberly.
Hi.
Kimberly is a friend of ours, part of Allison's family, and she is an expert in kids stuff, which is why we're excited that she will be joining us for lots of episodes, for random episodes, just being a part of the team.
Hi. So I am a teacher. I've been in education for about a decade now. I also have been playing D&D and TTRPGs alongside Allison for many years now.
So, in all your years of working with children, did it ever occur to you, I'm wondering, to use D&D or anything similar to D&D to help kids?
I wouldn't say that we did something quite as unique as D&D, and I wish we had. What we had used was what we called like social emotional stories or social stories, something that would replicate a situation in the classroom where a kid could see it and see the situation and talk about what they were supposed to do, and that if that came up, and then try and apply it to when that came up in class. So if they were trying to learn to share, it would give them the vocabulary to be able to say, I didn't like when you knocked down my tower of blocks. So we definitely role played. That happened so much. And I think having kids be able to put themselves in a pretend situation gives them an output to not be so afraid to mess up. It gives them a way there's less pressure.
Okay, so explain a little bit more about how practicing or role playing helps them not be afraid to mess up in real life situations. What's the connection there?
I think a lot of times it's normal for kids to not inherently know social skills, know how to share or think outside of themselves. That's really not a skill in a 5-year-old. They have to learn that. We almost expect them to learn it through playing with their friends, but by the time they're playing with their friends, they've already learned it. That's just them putting it into practice. They learn it through watching their adults. It gives an adult a way to have a foot in the door to coach them through a situation without them, I don't know, like if they're not going to hurt anyone's feelings, if they mess up, it's not something they have to make a split-second decision on.
It's lower risk.
Yeah.
And does it help that, like I know from my 5-year-old, does it help that they're not emotionally invested in the situation.
So much.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness, when toys getting cleaned up in transitions are a high risk time. And that's the biggest one, where if you can practice a situation where they're not emotionally involved, like I said, with the, tower of blocks getting knocked over, they're already upset by the time I know that something has happened, when that happens in a real situation. But if we've practiced it, I can bring up those vocab terms so that they hear something that we've practiced already, and it gives them a structure to use when they're feeling already amped up.
And they're more receptive to it than they would be if you were trying to teach them from the ground up in that emotionally charged moment.
Teaching in the moment is much less likely to stick because they're already tunnel vision at that point of like, this is what it's fair, this is what I wanted, and it's really hard to think outside of themselves at that age. It is developmentally appropriate for probably under 8 to be self-centered.
Yeah, that egocentrism in younger elementary kids is really hard to get around. One of the things that I liked about what you just said, Kimberly, is the modeling that adults do, because I feel like a lot of the way that society likes to pretend kids is segregated from adults, right? We have kid music and we have kid TV shows, and we send our kids to school, and we have like the adult side and the kid side, and rarely the twain shall meet. So I think it's really important to highlight what you just said, that it's as much about adults modeling the behavior and working through that role-playing process as it is those sort of teachable moments, which may or may not actually work in the moment.
I was just talking with someone today about something as simple, not simple, something as familiar to us as having a conversation and taking turns and reading cues. Kids want to run up to you and poke you and get your attention and tell you right now. I've seen in the classroom a wider range of how parents have handled and modeled for kids how to handle that situation. And it is something that they have to practice. Kids, like we're saying, like one-track mind, they have something they think and they want to tell you. But if you're talking to someone, it's not their turn yet. They have to wait, and it's a version of sharing.
Well, and adults aren't really taught that well either, insofar as how to teach children that, right? Like you talk about the range of ways that parents will engage with that. It really shows how sometimes we also fail parents, right? That these systems that we are teaching in the classroom, I wish more parents could see, so that they can be doing that at home too. So I think that's a good question then. What are some things that parents can be doing at home and around the table? Or maybe why is it important to have kids around the table with you doing TTRPG stuff to help model this?
One thing that I know I've seen Allison do with her kindergartner that I love is taking time to have a conversation with her and talk to her on her level and like meet her where she's at. She has very in-depth questions, which most 5-year-olds don't do, but that brings her into the conversation. And she loves asking you questions, and she knows that she can get an honest answer from her. And I don't think that's something that everybody has.
And how about when children are included in TTRPGs specifically? How do you see that opportunity as something that can kind of build the scaffolding or build the practice towards independence that you're describing?
Like we were saying, it gives them a safe space to practice something and see it. They love play, for one. One of the reasons I love kindergarten is because admin gives you a little bit more freedom to work on social emotional learning and a little bit less pressure on the academics. I spent a couple years in second grade, and it hurt me that we were trying to teach kids the branches of government, but they're crying every day because they can't figure out how to be friends with someone. There's not enough time allotted in a day to do social emotional learning.
So how could maybe a parent who wants to use TTRPGs to teach their elementary school child social emotional learning, what types of things can they include or add into their game to help foster that, or just like structures and rules?
Posing questions to the child. I don't think kids get enough prerogative to make their own decisions. Like we were saying with the independence, they're so often told how to do something or something is done for them that they forget that they are capable of lots of things. So I think just asking questions of them, giving them tasks to accomplish, things you know that they can achieve, will help them realize that I can do this. I am confident that I can do this. This is something that I know I am capable of.
I like that idea that confidence helps breed independence. Because that's been something that I've seen a lot, right? If a kid is scared or shy or doesn't understand the system that they're in, they are much less likely to be able to take ownership of that system. And I think one of the things that a lot of adults, one of the problems that adults have with TTRPGs and D&D in specific are the vast rule set that you as a DM sort of have to know behind the screen. And I think that they think that translates onto the player experience too, that a player has to be of a certain like maturity level or able to understand these sort of more complex things in order to play. But is that your experience? Like, as when you're doing role playing in the classroom, do kids need to, I don't know, be able to understand complex rules, or can they just role play?
I guess in some ways, social skills are complex rules that or expectations that adults put on them in that way too. But so many times kids just want an opportunity to play. They want the sandbox to dig around in. And it's so easy as the adult in that situation to have an expectation of how I want it to turn out. But more often than not, they can feed off each other and it turns into something that they wanted it to be. And I mean, just practice doing something multiple times is how they start to realize that they can do something, that the confidence comes from repetition.
So I guess it boils down to like three basic, I don't know, rules or directives or something. One, that play has to have rules, right? This is the systems that you're setting up for broken pencils. She knows where to take the broken pencil. She just needs the confidence that she knows those rules. Or like when they're playing in a sandbox, they need to know not to throw sand at other children. But once they have, right, yeah, but once they have those rules, those basic rules, those boundaries down, giving them the freedom to then do whatever they want to do inside of that system is the thing that really helps them to take ownership of that system. And so then like the third thing is that's the thing that we adults need to get out of the way about is our expectation about how a system should go, and then what a kid might do with that system that is still good and laudable and possible. And I think that's really hard for a lot of adults because there's the big thing about, you know, how we expect our kids' lives to go, which is a really hard thing to let go of. But then there's the really small thing when you're sitting at a table with kids and, you know, when I DM for kids, this is a hard thing for me sometimes, right? That they want to go talk to the cat and they want to keep talking to the cat. And I'm like, you need to go into the kitchen and like finish the quest, like do your quest. And they think the quest is talking to the cat. And like that is something that I have had to learn to let go of a little bit. Like, you know, we're going to finish telling the story, but how can I, as the DM, reshape my expectations around this story so that it includes the things that they want to do? And that's a really hard thing for adults to do.
Yeah, it is. And you would be surprised how often if you ask a child, afterwards how they felt about something, their thoughts on it are so wildly different than like what I saw happening. I love asking afterwards, like, wow, I see that you did this. Are you proud of yourself? Oh my goodness, watching their face light up, be like, yeah, yeah, I did that. um, their perception of an event is on their level, and they don't have all of the weight of our experiences.
I wonder if, bringing that up like at the end of the task, kind of reviewing it together, I wonder if the idea of like debriefing is something, and I haven't actually done this in TTRPGs with kids, but um, debriefing after the session would be helpful. Like I used to teach youth like team building on low ropes courses, and then like the debriefing was where like the actual learning came out of it, right? Like what what was the same as what you expected, what was different than what you expected, what surprised you about what you could do, who who was able to come up with what part of each solution, and just kind of asking questions to dive deeper to help them reflect and pull out little application nuggets from their experience that they could take with them into the real world after that.
Yeah, I think that reinforcement is really key, especially as kids grow and get older. Very young children don't necessarily have the same framework to be able to reflect like that, but this is how they learn to have that framework, right? This is that modeling again and that repetition. Um, and that's how they gain their independence too, is when you're able to point to the things that they did well and to say, I am so proud of you for this. How did you feel about this? Breaking down an experience and taking bits and pieces out and highlighting them is where that independence ultimately comes from.
Role playing allows kids to practice social emotional skills. It empowers them to reach a solution, and D&D helps kids build independence.
Thanks for listening to Area of Effect. Be a part of the ongoing conversation. Follow us on Instagram at the Kids Table D&D, where you can DM us questions that might appear on a future show. And check out the Kids Table D&D on YouTube to see how we include kids and teens at the table. Brought to you by the Kids Table, because when kids are at the table, everyone wins.